Welcome back to Z Coins. Today in this video, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and highly sought after American coins ever to come out of the mid-20th century. We're talking about the 1966 United States Washington quarter, an everyday coin at first glance, yet one that hides remarkable secrets, historical twists, and a value that has stunned even seasoned numismatists. You might be surprised to learn that a coin minted during a period of rising coin shortages and sweeping changes to the nation's currency system can become one of the most collectible pieces in the world of modern American coinage. The 1966 quarter is part of a unique transitional era, and because of that, it carries unexpected rarity, hidden varieties, and intriguing stories that elevate its status far beyond its original face value of just 25 cents. Today, we'll explore why this one particular year stands out, how you can identify the most valuable examples, what makes collectors rush to auctions whenever one appears, and why the market for this specific Washington quarter continues to grow. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how a common circulating coin can transform into a treasure worth thousands of dollars. Let's begin by stepping back in time and painting a picture of America in the year 1966. The country was experiencing social change, political turbulence, and major economic shifts. A massive coin shortage had hit the United States during the early 1960s, as people began hoarding silver coins out of fear that rising silver prices would make them more valuable as metal than as money. As a response, the government removed silver content from dimes and quarters beginning in 1965. This meant that the Washington quarters from 1966 were part of the early years of a major historic transition, from precious metal coinage to the clad composition we know today. But even more interesting is the fact that during 1965, 1966, and 1967, the U.S. Mint suspended the use of mint marks entirely. No coin from these years displayed the typical letters indicating where they were produced. This was meant to reduce hoarding, discourage collectors from pulling coins out of circulation, and stabilize the availability of small change. Ironically, this decision would later create confusion, curiosity, and eventually highly collectible varieties, because the absence of mint marks created a mystery behind the production of some coins, especially those struck using leftover or experimental planchets. Now, although 1966 Washington quarters were made in massive numbers, most of them were heavily circulated, used daily for decades, and often ended up worn, scratched, and lacking the sharp details collectors desire. High-grade examples are far more uncommon than people assume. The real excitement begins when we look at the small number of coins that survive in pristine condition or those struck with extraordinary sharpness that collectors call special strikes or transitional errors. One reason the 1966 quarter has gained so much attention is because of the ongoing search for unusual varieties, coins that, for one reason or another, came out differently from the standard issue. For example, some coins were struck using dies that had already been used for countless other strikes, resulting in doubled lettering, abnormal texture, or ghost-like images. Others were struck on planchets intended for different denominations or metals. These errors are extremely rare, but they create tremendous excitement when even one surfaces. Imagine holding a quarter that looks ordinary to the untrained eye, but on closer inspection, displays a doubled motto, off-center strike, an unusually sharp surface, or an unexpected metallic composition. These are exactly the sorts of unexpected treasures hidden in the 1966 quarter series, and they continue to draw collectors into the hunt. Another reason this coin holds an elevated status is the combination of limited high-grade survival and the rise of third-party coin grading services. When a coin receives a high grade, especially one above mint state 66, it enters a category where collectors begin competing fiercely. These competitions can turn ordinary auctions into bidding wars, driving prices into ranges that seem unimaginable for a clad quarter. Adding to the allure is the fact that the mint was experimenting with production quality during this time. Some coins were struck more forcefully, others more lightly, and some using dies that had been polished in unusual ways. These differences created subtle but collectible varieties, often unnoticed by casual observers. Collectors today search for sharper hair details on Washington's portrait, smoother fields, crisper eagle feathers on the reverse, and unique die markers that trace each coin back to specific production quirks. Let's take a moment to talk about why collectors care so much about die varieties and transitional pieces. When a coin is struck, two engraved dies, one for each side, come together with enormous pressure, imprinting the design onto a blank metal disc. As dies age, crack, or are repolished, they leave behind identifiable marks. Some varieties are the result of minor shiftings of the die between strikes, leading to doubled images or misaligned letters. Other varieties occur when leftover silver planchets accidentally enter the production line, producing a silver coin in a year when no silver quarters were supposed to be minted. These are the discoveries that turn everyday pocket change into legendary collectibles. Because millions of 1966 quarters were minted, many assume there is nothing special about them. Yet the truth is that the vast majority have been damaged or degraded through years of circulation. Finding one with razor-sharp detail, beautiful luster, and no contact marks is like finding a needle in a haystack. This scarcity of high-grade examples is what propels certain values to incredible heights. Let's also talk about coin collectors themselves. The demand for Washington quarters, particularly those from transitional years, is stronger today than ever before. People are increasingly fascinated by modern coinage with unusual stories or hidden rarity. Many collectors have taken a special interest in coins from the mid-1960s because they represent a turning point in American economic history. When you hold a 1966 quarter, you are literally holding a piece of the moment when America left behind its long tradition of silver coinage and entered the modern era of clad metal circulating money. Collectors often say that every coin tells a story. The story of the 1966 quarter is one of transition, experimentation, subtlety, and hidden value. Whether you inherited a jar of old coins, found one in circulation, or intentionally collected coins from this era, you might possess something more valuable than you ever expected. Now, what makes the highest value examples truly extraordinary is their state of preservation. A coin kept safe for decades, never circulated, never scratched, placed into protective storage from the moment it left the mint, can achieve grades that are nearly impossible for most coins from this period. When such a flawless example appears at auction, it attracts national attention. Collectors, investors, and even museums compete for ownership. As years pass and the numismatic community continues studying and discovering new varieties, the value of the 1966 quarter keeps climbing. Coin markets evolve, preferences shift, and attention cycles through different eras, but transitional coins like this one consistently hold a strong place in collector demand. Every year, more people learn about the potential hidden in these seemingly ordinary coins. Imagine sorting through a collection and spotting a 1966 Washington quarter that looks remarkably clean, sharp, and bright. Imagine sending it to a professional grading service and discovering that it qualifies as one of the highest graded examples known. Imagine watching collectors bid passionately for the chance to own such a rarity. The story of the 1972 Washington quarter is one that hides quietly in the pockets of history, waiting for collectors and curious treasure hunters to rediscover it. When most people think of rare coins, their minds jump to gold pieces, early American coppers, or colonial currency, but in reality, some of the most surprising treasures are ordinary circulating coins that millions of people have handled without ever realizing their hidden potential. The 1972 Washington quarter is a perfect example. It is a coin that spent decades traveling from hand to hand, paying for gasoline, groceries, stamps, and school lunches, yet beneath its everyday purpose lies a mystery that has fascinated collectors for years. While the majority of these coins are common, a tiny fraction of them have become the stuff of modern numismatic legend, turning a simple 25-cent piece into a small fortune. Before we dig into the extraordinary value that one special quarter can achieve, let's step back and explore the coin itself. The design of the Washington quarter has a long and patriotic history. First introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the coin was never meant to become a permanent part of American currency. It was intended as a one-year commemorative issue, but it quickly became so popular that it replaced the standing Liberty quarter entirely. The obverse features the familiar portrait of George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan, while the reverse depicts a majestic eagle perched confidently on a bundle of arrows. It is a design that countless Americans have grown up with, one of the most recognizable images in all of U.S. coinage. By the time 1972 arrived, the Washington quarter had been circulating for 4 decades. The mint in Denver, identified by the small D mint mark beneath the wreath on the reverse, produced hundreds of millions of them that year. These coins were made of a copper-nickel clad composition, no longer silver like the quarters minted before 1965. To most people, a 1972 D quarter is just another common coin, one that blends in perfectly with nearly every other quarter in circulation. And for the majority of them, that is absolutely true. But, as with all mass-produced items, a tiny handful escaped the minting process with special qualities, high-grade survivors, errors, and exceptional strikes that today command massive attention. A huge factor in determining the rarity of any 1972 D quarter is its condition. Most of the quarters from that year saw heavy circulation. People carried them in pockets or purses. They clinked together in jars and cash drawers. They were dropped, scraped, and worn down over many years. Because of this constant use, high-grade specimens, especially those graded mint state, with no wear and strong original luster, are surprisingly scarce. For a coin to be considered extremely valuable, it needs to be not just good but nearly flawless under magnification. Collectors look for sharp details in Washington's hair, full definition in the eagle's feathers, a clean surface free of scratches, and beautiful eye appeal. A perfect or near-perfect example stands out immediately when placed beside a typical circulated quarter. But even condition alone does not tell the whole story. Some 1972 D quarters become even more desirable because of unique mint errors. Errors may include double dies, incorrect planchets, off-center strikes, or dramatic die cracks. These errors are not intentional. They are accidents that occur when something goes unexpectedly wrong during the minting process. Error coins can be extremely rare because they often escape detection before being released into circulation. For collectors, errors are like the fingerprints of history, physical evidence of the exact moment when the mint machinery misaligned or malfunctioned, leaving behind a one-of-a-kind piece. And even within the category of errors, some are far scarcer than others, making the most dramatic examples incredibly valuable. Another component that elevates certain 1972 D quarters is something called strike quality. Even among coins that are technically mint state, strike quality can vary greatly. A strong strike is one where the coin's features are sharply and deeply impressed into the metal. Weak strikes, on the other hand, may leave some details faint or incomplete. When a coin is struck with fresh dies and optimal pressure, the result is a crisp, highly detailed finish that collectors prize. Coins with exceptional strike quality combined with pristine surfaces can command astounding prices at auctions. It's also important to understand the grading system that collectors and dealers use to evaluate coins. The scale runs from 1 to 70, with 70 representing absolute perfection. A coin graded MS67 or higher is extraordinarily rare for most circulation issues from the 1970s. The higher the grade, the more dramatic the jump in value. A difference of just one grade point can mean hundreds or even thousands of dollars. That's why collectors often submit coins to professional grading services, which authenticate and certify the condition of each piece. Once a coin is securely encapsulated with an official grade, its price becomes far more predictable and easier to verify. Now imagine someone sitting at their kitchen table, looking through an old jar of change. Maybe they inherited it from a relative. Or maybe it's simply a collection of leftover coins that accumulated over many years. As they sort through the quarters, they notice a 1972 D. At first, it looks ordinary. But perhaps it has an unusually clean surface, or perhaps they spot a small irregularity in the lettering or design. That is often how incredible discoveries are made. A coin worth a life-changing amount of money could be hiding in plain sight, mixed with everyday change that most people overlook. The thrill of the search is part of what makes numismatics such an exciting hobby. Anyone can participate. You don't need special equipment to start. All you need are your eyes, your curiosity, and a bit of patience. The possibility of finding a rare coin in circulation sparks the imagination. It's like treasure hunting, except the treasure hunt is happening quietly in the background of ordinary life, inside pockets, cup holders, drawers, and coin jars scattered across America. Collectors also valued the historical context of a coin. The year 1972 was a fascinating time in American history. It was a decade of cultural transformation, political tension, and rapid technological growth. People were buying their first color televisions, listening to vinyl records, and reading newspapers about events that still shaped the modern world. To hold a quarter from that era is to hold a tiny piece of that history, a relic of the everyday life of millions of Americans. Each coin carries memories of its time, memories of commerce, travel, conversations, purchases, and small moments long forgotten by the individuals who once carried it. But amidst all the stories, the main reason people are so fascinated with certain 1972 D quarters is because of one extraordinary sale that stunned collectors everywhere. The vast majority of these quarters are not rare, not special, and not particularly valuable. But a single coin, remarkable for its condition, strike, and flawless appearance, crossed the auction block and achieved a price that instantly made headlines in the collecting world. The sale demonstrated that even modern coins, even clad coins from the 1970s, can bring enormous prices when they are preserved in exceptional condition. For collectors, this auction was a reminder that hidden gems still exist. It breathed new life into the search for rare Washington quarters. It also encouraged people to take a second look at coins they might otherwise dismiss. A quarter that has survived more than 50 years in nearly perfect condition is incredibly rare, especially when you consider how many of these coins were tossed into pockets, scraped across counters, dropped on sidewalks, or spent thousands of times. The survival of even one extraordinary specimen is nothing short of miraculous. The story of American coins is filled with unexpected treasures, small, everyday pieces of metal that quietly move through our hands without us realizing their hidden value. And among the countless coins produced in the United States' mint's long history, very few surprise collectors quite like the 1981 D Washington quarter. On the surface, it looks like any other ordinary quarter: George Washington on the front, an eagle on the back, a simple piece of pocket change worth 25 cents. But behind that familiar image is a fascinating world of rarity, striking errors, minting details, and collector demand that has pushed certain examples of the 1981 D Washington quarter to values that would have seemed impossible when the coin was first released. Imagine turning over your pocket change after a long day, expecting the usual assortment of coins, and suddenly discovering that one of those quarters could be worth thousands. It sounds like a dream, but in the coin collecting world, dreams like this do come true more often than you might think. The 1981 D Washington quarter is one such coin that has captured the attention of collectors for years. Not because it is old, after all, coins from the 1980s are still quite modern, but because of how condition, strike quality, history, and rarity combine to transform certain versions into valuable treasures. Let's start by stepping back into 1981. Ronald Reagan had just taken office. The Cold War was still shaping global politics. MTV hadn't yet premiered. And in the middle of everyday life, the Denver Mint, the facility known for producing billions of circulating coins, was striking the 1981 D Washington quarter. The D mint mark on the right side of the coin, just next to Washington's ponytail, tells us that it came from the Denver Mint in Colorado. While the Denver Mint produced millions of these quarters for circulation, The value of the 1981 D coin today doesn't come from how many were made, it comes from how very few survived in flawless, untouched condition. Most coins struck for everyday use get bumped, scratched, dented, dropped, and worn down almost immediately after entering circulation. They move through vending machines, pockets, purses, cash registers, and countless hands. As a result, they lose the crisp details and glossy finish they once had. This is why, for modern coins, collectors pay the most attention to condition. A common coin in poor condition is usually worth little more than face value, but the same coin in pristine, near-perfect condition can sometimes reach staggering prices. For the 1981 D Washington quarter, this difference is especially dramatic. A worn example, the kind you'd likely find in spare change, might only be worth its typical 25 cents. However, an example that has never circulated, that still carries its sharp strike and original mint luster, especially one graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, can suddenly enter a completely different league. Collectors call these top-quality coins mint state, and within that grade are several sublevels, from MS60 all the way up to MS70, the highest possible grade representing a flawless coin with no imperfections visible even under magnification. What makes the top-graded examples of the 1981 D so valuable is the rarity of perfection. Even though millions were minted, only a tiny number survived in extraordinary condition. Think of it this way: imagine thousands of freshly baked cookies on a conveyor belt, but by the time they are packaged, shipped, handled, and placed on store shelves, almost none remain perfectly unbroken. In the same way, most quarters from the Denver Mint never had a chance to remain pristine. Those few that were preserved by collectors early on, perhaps pulled from mint sets or discovered before entering circulation, became the elite survivors, the handful of coins capable of breaking auction records. And of course, scarcity alone isn't the only factor. Eye appeal matters tremendously. Collectors prize coins with a strong, bold strike, meaning that every feather on the eagle, every hair strand on Washington's head, every letter, and every detail appears sharp and fully formed. They also value a clean surface free from distracting marks. Luster, the way the coin reflects light, plays a critical role too. A beautiful cartwheel shine can elevate a coin's desirability. Even small variations in appearance can make two coins of the same grade appeal very differently to collectors, influencing the final sale price. But what makes the 1981 D Washington quarter such a standout is that the Denver Mint's quality control during the early 1980s wasn't perfect. Many coins from that era have weak strikes or minor defects, making high-grade survivors even more desirable. When a collector sees a perfectly struck example with incredible luster, they know they're looking at a true rarity point. One of the most exciting aspects of collecting coins like the 1981 D Washington quarter is the treasure hunting element. Anyone can find coins in their change, search through old jars, check boxes of forgotten pocket money, or examine inherited coin collections. The thrill comes from the possibility that something extraordinary might be sitting unnoticed in plain sight. Countless stories exist of people discovering valuable coins by accident, sometimes worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. Now imagine the excitement when collectors discovered that some of the finest known examples of the 1981 D Washington quarter were selling for huge sums. Auctions reported enormous interest, and bidding wars among determined collectors drove prices higher and higher. What began as a humble 25-cent coin became a star in the world of modern numismatics. And the story doesn't end with condition alone. Eras and varieties also play a major role in creating value. While the 1981 D quarter isn't especially known for dramatic mint errors, any genuine error, such as off-center strikes, double strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks, can multiply a coin's value. Error collectors pay high prices for unusual minting mistakes, especially when they are clear, visually striking, and well-preserved. While most 1981 D quarters don't have errors, the possibility adds an exciting layer to the hunt. Collectors today still search for these coins with great passion. Whether examining uncirculated mint sets, coin rolls, or inherited collections, many hope to uncover a high-grade example. And although most finds will not be the rarest of the rare, the search itself is part of the excitement. It keeps the hobby alive and brings new collectors into the fascinating world of American numismatics. One of the most important lessons when evaluating coins like the 1981 D Washington quarter is that value depends heavily on authentication and professional grading. Without grading, it's difficult to determine whether a coin truly reaches the highest mint state levels. That's why collectors turn to third-party grading services that encapsulate coins in tamper-evident holders and assign official grades. A professionally graded MS67, MS68, or even higher 1981 D quarter can command extraordinary prices at auction. These sealed certifications provide assurance and confidence to buyers, allowing them to invest with clarity. So what does all this mean for coin enthusiasts, casual collectors, or anyone simply curious about the value of their pocket change? It means that even modern-era coins, ones that don't seem old or exotic, can hold tremendous value if preserved well. And the 1981 D Washington quarter is a perfect example of this hidden potential. Its journey from ordinary circulation coin to record-breaking auction piece shows that numismatic treasures don't always come from centuries past. Sometimes, they come from the everyday coins we overlook without a second thought. We're diving into the incredible discovery, the history, the quirks, the errors, the mystery behind its scarcity in top condition, and how one of these small silver-colored coins shocked collectors when it sold for a jaw-dropping record price. Let's begin by stepping back into the early 1980s, a decade filled with changing fashion, new technology, and major shifts in the American economy. While music stores blasted cassette tapes and arcades glowed with Pac-Man machines, the U.S. Mint was facing a very different challenge: skyrocketing production costs and a dramatic rise in the number of coins needed to keep up with the nation's growing cash-based economy. In 1982, the Mint made several key decisions that would unknowingly influence the future value of a certain Denver-struck quarter. One of those decisions was the choice to stop producing traditional mint sets that year. Normally, collectors rely on mint sets to obtain high-quality, carefully preserved examples of each denomination. But with the government pushing to reduce costs and streamline production, no official mint sets were released for 1982. This single change would quietly transform the market for high-grade Washington quarters from that year, especially those made in Denver. The 1982 D Washington quarter entered circulation like every other coin, billions minted, millions exchanged daily, and none set aside in pristine collector packaging. Most people spent them, dropped them, scraped them against vending machines, let them roll across countertops and parking lots. Over time, nearly all of them developed scratches, nicks, bag marks, and wear. Even today, most surviving examples look like the rest of the loose change sitting at the bottom of a junk drawer. This brings us to a fascinating truth: scarcity in coin collecting doesn't always come from low mintage numbers. Sometimes it comes from how the coins were handled, or not handled, after production. And the absence of mint sets in 1982 meant that almost no untouched, high-grade Denver quarters were saved at all. The few surviving pristine pieces that did remain sealed in original rolls or bags became numismatic time capsules. While the majority of 1982 D quarters have little numismatic value, the highest-graded examples tell a completely different story, one of rarity, competition, and skyrocketing demand. It wasn't long before grading services began receiving submissions of these quarters from collectors hoping to find one of the elusive top-tier specimens. But as the submissions piled up, it became obvious that the Mint's rushed production quality that year had taken a toll. The best examples were unbelievably hard to find. A coin needed razor-sharp detail, flawless surfaces, glowing luster, and no distracting marks. Those that met the highest grading standards became instant treasures. Let's explore what makes any given 1982 D quarter potentially valuable. The first factor is condition, arguably the most crucial. Even a coin only slightly worn is automatically excluded from premium collector categories. Mint state grades start the moment a coin leaves the mint untouched. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. Many uncirculated pieces still show bag marks, weak strikes, or dull luster. To reach the top tier, mint state 66, 67, or 68, the coin must look nearly flawless under magnification. And here's where things get interesting. For the 1982 D quarter, high-grade pieces are dramatically scarcer than most other modern quarters. Another major factor is strike quality. Some 1982 Denver quarters were produced with worn dies, creating weak details. Others were struck with fresh dies, resulting in crisp lettering, strong hairlines on Washington's portrait, and sharp edges on the eagle's wings on the reverse. When a strong strike meets exceptional luster and superior preservation, the coin becomes a discovery worth celebrating. There's also the possibility of errors, off-center strikes, doubled dies, clipped planchets. But the extremely valuable coin we discuss today is not an error at all. Its value comes purely from its immaculate condition and rarity in that top grade. So how rare are we talking? Imagine millions of people searching their change, collectors sending hundreds of coins to grading services, and dealers examining thousands of uncirculated rolls, only to discover that very few 1982 D quarters survive in near-perfect shape. In fact, the chance of finding such a specimen is so low that collectors compare it to winning a small lottery. That's precisely why the numismatic world erupted in excitement when an astonishingly preserved example turned up and was certified at one of the highest grades ever assigned to this date. When that extraordinary coin crossed the auction block, serious collectors took notice. What followed was a flurry of bidding that pushed the final hammer price far beyond what anyone had predicted. It was a moment that stunned even longtime experts, a modern-era business strike quarter selling for a record amount that few would have believed possible. Now, before revealing that legendary figure, let's talk about what makes certain quarters so uniquely appealing to collectors. The Washington Quarter series has been minted since 1932. Throughout those years, most collectors have focused on early silver issues, key dates, and varieties. But as more enthusiasts begin exploring modern circulating coins, interest in high-grade examples from the 1970s and 1980s has exploded. These decades, once overlooked, now hold unexpected treasures. And because the 1982 issues lacked official mint sets, the Denver quarter from that year became a centerpiece of modern coin rarity. Collectors also enjoy the chase. There's something thrilling about checking pocket change, sorting through rolls, or digging through inherited coin jars hoping to find that one shining gem. Videos, magazines, blogs, everyone loves the idea of discovering a valuable coin where few people would ever think to look. The 1982 D quarter represents that dream. It connects ordinary daily life with extraordinary possibility. So let's return to that unbelievable auction moment. Picture the room: coin dealers, collectors, auction representatives, and even curious spectators waiting for the bidding to begin. The coin appears on screen, described as one of the finest known. Phones ring. Bids arrive online. Hands rise. Each bid pushes the number higher. People glance around as the price climbs, surpassing expectations again and again. The atmosphere shifts from casual interest to pure intensity. Then, at last, the hammer falls. The room fills with murmurs. A modern quarter, one that originally cost 25 cents, had just sold for a staggering record price. It was a moment that would immediately enter modern coin collecting legend. And that extraordinary number is the same value you asked to include at the very end of this script. That sale changed the way collectors viewed modern U.S. coinage. Suddenly, everyday coins from ordinary circulation were no longer dismissed as common or uninteresting. Instead, they became invitations to explore, examine, and appreciate the artistry and unpredictability of mass-produced coinage. The 1982 D Washington quarter reminded everyone that rarity isn't always about age. Sometimes it's about condition, timing, preservation, and circumstance. Sometimes history hides in plain sight. Even today, collectors search relentlessly for high-grade examples. Many hope they might discover another immaculate survivor tucked away in a forgotten roll or resting quietly in an old bank bag. Although the chances are extremely small, the excitement of the hunt continues to inspire new generations of numismatists. And whenever this story is told, The legendary sale remains the highlight, a symbol of what's possible when rarity meets desirability. The year is 1993. Bill Clinton is in the White House, Jurassic Park is dominating theater screens, and millions of everyday Americans are carrying around Washington quarters without giving them a second glance. The Philadelphia Mint was especially busy that year, striking hundreds of millions of coins, including the Washington quarter bearing the familiar P Mint mark. To most people, these coins were just another part of daily life. But over time, something unusual happened. Among the countless quarters in circulation, a small number began to attract attention, not because of their age, but because of their condition, their striking quality, and a few extraordinary examples struck with such precision and perfection that they became legendary in the coin collecting community. The Washington quarter itself is an iconic piece of American currency. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the obverse features the portrait of America's first president, George Washington, facing left. His profile is strong, calm, and instantly recognizable. The reverse displays the majestic eagle, wings outstretched, clutching arrows and olive branches, a symbol of both strength and peace. Although most Americans never pause to admire its details, collectors study every curve, every feather, every subtle line. In 1993, the Philadelphia Mint used updated dyes and advanced striking methods that year, aiming for cleaner surfaces and sharper details. But as with any mass production process, variations occur. Some coins come out slightly off-center. Others are struck on defective planchets. And then, once in a very rare while, a coin emerges so crisp, so flawless in its strike, so immaculate in its surface luster, that it becomes something more than a quarter. It becomes a treasure. The 1993 P. Washington quarter gained fame for its exceptional potential in high grades. When collectors talk about grades, they're referring to the level of preservation and condition of the coin, measured on a scale that goes all the way from heavily worn pocket change to pristine, untouched specimens known as mint state. The highest, most coveted category is mint state 67 or higher, especially when certified by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC. Most quarters from 1993 show signs of wear. That's understandable. They've been in circulation for decades. But the true gems, the rarest of the rare, are the ones preserved almost perfectly from the moment they left the mint. These coins were never dropped, never scratched against keys, never tossed into a jar, never rubbed raw by years of use. Instead, they somehow remained untouched, retaining their original mint-fresh shine. As years passed, collectors started noticing how uncommon top-grade examples of the 1993 P quarter were. Unlike older silver quarters, these coins weren't rare because of metal content or age. They were rare because of condition. The highest graded examples became hot commodities, and auction houses started seeing bidding wars erupt whenever a flawless specimen appeared. The real shock came when one of these quarters, graded at an exceptionally high mint state level, hit the auction block. The precision of the strike was remarkable. Washington's hair details were razor sharp. The fields were smooth and radiant, reflecting light like a mirror. The eagle's feathers on the reverse looked almost sculpted. It was the kind of perfection that even seasoned collectors rarely encounter in modern coins. As the bidding began, prices jumped quickly. 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. The audience watched in disbelief as the numbers climbed higher and higher. Collectors online and on the phone chimed in desperately, refusing to let this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip away. When the hammer finally fell, the room was buzzing, and the numismatic world had a new superstar, a 1993 P. Washington quarter that sold for a staggering sum that absolutely no one expected. This sale ignited a wildfire of interest. Suddenly, people started examining their loose change with renewed enthusiasm. Coin collectors began telling new hobbyists, "Don't underestimate the modern quarters. Some of them can surprise you." And sure enough, the search for the perfect 1993 P quarter became something of a modern treasure hunt. But the value of these coins doesn't come solely from the perfect, ultra-high-grade examples. Even mid-grade coins show rising value trends because collectors love completing sets. A high-quality Washington quarter set requires every date and mint mark, and the 1993p, in the sharpest possible grade, has proven notoriously difficult to find. The mint struck millions of them, but survival in pristine condition is extremely low. Why? Because everyday coins are meant to be used. Imagine the average quarter's journey. It rattles around in pockets, hits the bottom of cash registers, falls down car seats, gets scraped across rough countertops, spends years in circulation, and finally settles at the bottom of a forgotten jar. Every one of these moments creates tiny imperfections, nicks, scratches, small abrasions. Eventually, even a beautifully struck coin loses its luster. That's why the few that somehow avoided all this chaos became so desirable. The Philadelphia Mint's long history adds another layer to the story. As one of the United States' busiest mints, Philadelphia coins can be found everywhere, from coast to coast. Yet it's this very abundance that makes high-quality survivors such a prize. It's easy to find a circulated 1993p quarter. It's incredibly difficult to find one that looks as though it was struck yesterday. Collectors also keep an eye out for minor errors in 1993 quarters. While not all errors add as much value as pristine condition, certain types, such as die breaks, off-center strikes, or double-die varieties, can raise the price. These unusual mistakes occur when minting machinery shifts, misaligns, or experiences pressure problems during production. A small die crack running between letters, a doubled motto, or a misshaped rim can all push collectability even higher. And remember, errors are often one of a kind. They turn a common coin into a unique discovery. But despite error varieties being interesting, nothing rivals the jaw-dropping sale price of the top-graded 1993p Washington quarter. That extraordinary sale sent a clear message. Modern coins can be every bit as valuable as older ones, provided they're rare, flawless, and certified to prove their perfection. So what should you look for if you're searching your change? Here's what matters most. You want sharp details. Look at Washington's hair. Does it appear crisp or flattened? Check the eagle's wings. Are the feathers nicely defined or worn smooth? Next, check the surfaces. Are they glossy, reflective, and free from scratches? Or do you see scuffs and tiny marks that catch the light? Also examine the edges. A clean, fully struck rim with no flattening or denting is especially important in high-grade coins. If you believe you have something that looks promising, even slightly better than the average quarter, you can compare it with online images of high-graded examples from PCGS or NGC. And if it truly stands out, consider getting it officially graded. You never know, your coin could be one of the ultra-rare survivors that collectors are desperately seeking. As the camera slowly zooms back out from the velvet resting coin, the narrator offers one final thought. The 1993p Washington quarter teaches us an important lesson. Treasures don't always come from ancient times, and you don't need to dig through historic ruins or pirate chests to find something valuable. Sometimes, the treasure is already in your home, quietly waiting in a cup holder, a junk drawer, or a pile of change. All it takes is curiosity, a good eye, and the willingness to look a little closer. We're diving deep into one of the most overlooked treasures in modern U.S. coinage, the 1995p Mint Mark Washington quarter dollar. If you've ever wondered whether everyday pocket change could hold something rare or valuable, or if you simply enjoy learning about coins that have stunned collectors with unexpected price tags, then you're in the right place. Because what seems like an ordinary 25-cent piece, minted just a few decades ago, has shocked the coin world again and again with incredible discoveries, surprising errors, and chart-topping auction results. Let's take a journey back in time to the mid-1990s. The United States was buzzing with cultural energy. New technology was blooming, pop culture was shifting, and the U.S. Mint was pumping out millions of familiar Washington quarters, all bearing that iconic portrait by John Flanagan. Among them was the 1995 quarter minted in Philadelphia, known by the simple but powerful P Mint mark. More than 1 billion of these coins were struck, which makes them sound extremely common. And in general circulation they are. You've probably handled hundreds of them over the years without thinking twice. Yet in the enormous sea of routine strikes, something remarkable happened. A tiny fraction of these coins, barely detectable at first glance, ended up being minted so crisply, so precisely, or with such unusual minting characteristics that collectors started paying special attention. What makes the 1995 P Washington quarter special isn't that it's old, nor that it's made of precious metal. It's actually the complete opposite. Its value comes from the details. In coin collecting, the details make all the difference between a coin worth only its face value and one that sells for astonishing amounts. For the 1995 P quarter, the magic lies in minting quality, condition, strike clarity, and exceptionally rare mint errors. When all of these align, you get a coin that transforms from everyday pocket change to a certified numismatic gem. A lot of people imagine that older coins are automatically more valuable. But age alone means almost nothing. What matters is rarity, condition, and collector demand. So when you hear that a coin minted in 1995, well within the lifetimes of most collectors, has sold for thousands of dollars, it grabs attention. What's astonishing about this quarter is not its scarcity, but rather how incredibly few examples exist in the highest possible grade. A perfect or near-perfect coin from a year when over 1 billion were struck? That's the kind of challenge collectors love. Now, imagine a coin that survived nearly 3 decades without a scratch, without a scuff, and without the slightest compression of its design details. No circulation wear, no pocket friction, no damage. Such a coin must have avoided coin machines, cash registers, pockets, purses, and fingertips. It must have been kept safe from the moment it was minted. That alone is rare. But when that same coin also exhibits powerful luster, deeply defined details, and what grading experts call a clean field, meaning the open flat areas of the coin are nearly perfect, you have something extraordinary. Professional coin grading companies like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins under strong magnification, using strict industry standards. Even a tiny imperfection can drop a coin from top-tier status to average. A single mark from another coin can reduce its grade. A hairline scratch invisible to the naked eye can change its value dramatically. So when a 1995 P quarter receives a top-grade evaluation, collectors take notice. The difference in price between a mint-state coin and a near-perfect mint-state coin can be staggering. And the higher you climb in the grading scale, the tighter the competition becomes. Collectors are constantly searching for those nearly flawless examples, often spending months or even years examining rolls, bags, or mint sets. Most of the time, after reviewing hundreds or thousands of quarters from 1995, they find nothing exceptional. But every once in a while, lightning strikes. A rare piece emerges. And when that happens, auctions explode with excitement. Bidders push the price higher and higher, knowing full well that coins like this might not appear again for years. On top of high-grade examples, this particular quarter also features several fascinating error varieties. Some collectors have discovered off-center strikes, where the coin's design is shifted noticeably to one side. Others have found double-die obverse errors, where letters or numbers appear doubled due to a slight misalignment during the minting process. These errors, while not extremely common, add tremendous value because they transform an ordinary quarter into a one-of-a-kind piece. And in the world of coin collecting, uniqueness always commands attention. But the real superstar of the 1995 P Washington quarter isn't just any example, it's the one that hit the auction world with a price tag so stunning that collectors still talk about it today. It's the kind of coin story people repeat with amazement, an ordinary quarter from the 1990s, something we've all used without a second thought, suddenly becoming a treasure worth thousands. It's an incredible reminder that even the most unassuming coins can hide surprising value. Before we reveal that incredible number, let's take a moment to understand the emotional side of coin collecting. There's something magical about holding a small piece of metal that has survived the passing of time. Coins travel through hands, pockets, counters, and wallets, silently witnessing decades of human movement. But when one of those coins escapes the chaos of circulation, remaining pristine, untouched, and frozen in its original brilliance, it becomes more than just currency. It becomes a time capsule. And when someone discovers such a piece years later, the excitement is unforgettable. Many collectors can tell you stories of the moment they opened a coin roll and spotted something unusual. The shine looked different, the details were sharper, or the edges seemed crisp. That spark of curiosity leads to research, magnification, and sometimes professional grading. And when that grading result comes back with a breathtakingly high number, collectors instantly realize they've discovered a genuine treasure. It's the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of discovery, and the joy of holding something truly rare. For the 1995 P quarter, the most valuable known example lit up the auction world when it reached its record-selling price. It wasn't expected. It wasn't predicted. It simply appeared, clean, sharp, flawless, and stunning in every detail. The bidding was fierce. Collectors recognized immediately that they were looking at a rarity that might not surface again for years, maybe decades. With each raise of a bid card, the value climbed, the anticipation grew, and the excitement electrified the room. By the time the final gavel fell, collectors knew history had been made. This is why learning about valuable coins isn't just educational, it's thrilling. Anyone watching this video right now might have a rare coin sitting unnoticed in a collection, a drawer, or even a jar of spare change. It might not be perfect. It might not be flawless. But checking is part of the fun. And knowing the potential value of these coins adds an exciting twist to something as ordinary as pocket change. It's almost like hidden treasure waiting to be rediscovered. Today's story is about a deceptively common coin, the 2021 United States of America P-Mint Mark Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, it looks like any other modern quarter, a coin passed from hand to hand at grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, arcades, and drive-through windows. But beneath its modern shine lies a surprising world of rarity, collector demand, and value that continues to grow in ways even seasoned collectors didn't predict when it was first released. Imagine someone reaching into their change jar on an average afternoon, fishing around for quarters to feed a parking meter or buy a snack. Their fingers brush over something that feels no different from dozens of others. Same weight, same ridged edge, same bright copper-nickel look. But that single coin might be one of the standout rarities of the modern era, a coin that in perfect condition has shocked collectors, stunned grading experts, and sent ripples through the coin collecting community. The 2021 P-Mint Washington quarter has become one of the most talked about modern quarters because of a combination of factors: limited high-grade survival, unexpected minting characteristics, and an enthusiastic surge in collector interest for modern coins that look flawless straight from the roll. When the year 2021 rolled around, it marked a transitional moment in the long history of the Washington quarter. Since 1932, the design had undergone shifts, redesigns, and commemorative runs, but the early 2020s were especially unique because of the burst of attention around new American women quarters and the tail end of America the Beautiful issues. Many collectors who had focused on older silver quarters suddenly turned their attention toward modern coins, because rarity was beginning to form in places no one had expected. The Philadelphia Mint, known for its massive production numbers, struck millions of 2021 Washington quarters, but only a tiny fraction came out with near-perfect quality. Most coins went into circulation quickly, receiving scratches, small nicks, bag marks, and handling wear. But a very small number, extremely small, were sharp, clean, beautifully struck pieces that stunned collectors when professionally graded. The story of this coin gets even more compelling when we talk about the grading process. In modern numismatics, slight differences that are impossible to detect with the naked eye can make the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth thousands of dollars. The grading scale goes from 1 to 70, and a perfect 70 is the holy grail, flawless, untouched, pristine. Most 2021 P-Mint quarters submitted for grading fell into the mid-60s, good coins but not rare. Even mint rolls, still wrapped and unopened, often failed to produce the extremely high grades collectors were hoping for. Every time a collector opened a fresh roll, the chance of finding a truly pristine piece was like finding a needle in a haystack. And that scarcity, within modern coinage, is what began to fuel massive auction excitement. The coin market reacts intensely to modern perfection. Collectors who specialize in registry sets, competitive collections ranked by grading services, are always chasing the highest graded examples known. They want the top of the population, the finest of the fine. And in the case of the 2021 P-Mint Washington quarter, perfect and near-perfect examples quickly became the target of fierce bidding battles. Bidders weren't just seeking a coin. They were chasing the prestige of owning one of the best graded examples on Earth. As the coin community began sharing discoveries online, more and more collectors realized how difficult it was to find 2021 Philadelphia quarters that reached the top grade levels. Videos appeared of coin hunters examining hundreds of coins under bright lights, flipping each quarter over and over, searching for even the faintest mark. Forums filled with frustrated posts from collectors who, after buying entire boxes of rolls, still couldn't secure a perfect specimen. Dealers started offering higher and higher prices for unsearched rolls, while grading submissions surged. The search became a nationwide treasure hunt, and the value of top-condition examples began climbing. But the story becomes even more fascinating when you consider how modern rarity works. Older coins are scarce because they've been lost to time, melted for silver, or worn past recognition. Modern coins, however, become rare because perfect ones never existed in large numbers to begin with. Fast, high-speed minting machines, high demand, circulation distribution, and the rush of modern coin production all mean that flawless examples appear only by chance. The 2021 P. Washington quarter emerged as a perfect case study of this phenomenon. These top-tier coins weren't carefully preserved by the mint. They were simply lucky survivors of an immense, chaotic striking process. Collectors began asking, why this coin? Why 2021? Why Philadelphia? Experts have pointed to subtle issues at the mint that year: slightly more surface chatter, more contact marks, occasional weak strikes, all contributing to a smaller than expected number of high-grade coins. Whatever the reason, the result was the same: demand soared. Certain auction houses saw record-breaking attendance for modern quarter auctions. People were tuning in from all over the world just to watch these unexpected stars of the modern minting era claim impressive price tags. The appeal of the 2021 P-Mint Mark quarter also comes from something less technical but just as powerful: nostalgia and accessibility. Unlike ancient coins or rare gold pieces, this quarter is relatable. Anyone in America could have held one in their hand without knowing its potential. It's the dream of finding value in everyday life that draws viewers and collectors in. Many collectors describe the joy of examining their pocket change or coin jar, wondering whether they might stumble upon one of these rare beauties hiding among ordinary coins. Imagine the thrill of discovering you owned something far more valuable than 25 cents, something collectors would battle over at auction. It's that sense of possibility that makes this story so compelling. Modern coin collecting has shifted from dusty catalogs to digital excitement. Auction prices spread like wildfire across social media. Stories of high-value finds spark new interest among younger collectors, who now see coin collecting not as an old-fashioned hobby, but as a blend of treasure hunting, investing, and historical appreciation. The 2021 P-Mint Washington quarter's rise in value reflects these changing attitudes. It's no longer just about what's old or silver or rare from centuries past. It's about what's unique now, what survives in perfect condition despite the odds, what captures the imagination, and what becomes a centerpiece in a competitive modern collection. As collectors have discovered, even though millions of the 2021 Philadelphia quarters exist, only a microscopic fraction qualify as top pop examples. These are the coins that burst onto the numismatic stage and caught everyone off guard. When grading companies released their population reports, documents listing how many coins had achieved each grade, collector forums exploded with discussion. It became clear that obtaining one of the highest graded coins wasn't just difficult, it was exceptionally rare. And as all collectors know, rarity is the engine that drives value. This entire story teaches a powerful lesson about modern numismatics. Valuable coins aren't always ancient artifacts. They aren't always silver, gold, or historically monumental. Sometimes they are ordinary coins minted in the present day, coins that become extraordinary through their condition, scarcity, and collector demand. The 2021 P-Mint Washington quarter dollar demonstrates how exciting modern collecting can be, and how valuable modern coins can become when they reach the pinnacle of grading quality. Toward the end of our journey, we arrive at the highlight that drew so much attention to this coin in the first place. A small number of these exceptional high-grade quarters made their way into major auctions, where collectors competed fiercely, refusing to back down. Each bid lifted the coin's prestige higher, and each sale cemented its place among the most surprising modern rarities. When the hammer finally fell on a particularly stunning example, the room erupted, collectors witnessing a modern quarter achieve a price that once seemed impossible.